we elevated a general to 4 stars. I think you should sign that. That's a big deal. A general did a great job, was elevated to 4 stars. And I had the general in, and I signed it in front of him, held it up. You got to sign that. You can't give it to an Autopen. And you can always tell an Autopen. One thing, it has 2 little tiny dots. You know that? 2 little dots. You know what that's from? 2 pins. They go bing, bing. They're wonderful things. But you got to sign it. And the law is you have to sign it. If somebody's, telling the Autopen person, he has to be authorized by the President of the United States. Well, he wasn't. The guy barely knew the President. How many times did you speak to the President, right? He said 2. And they just spoke about the weather. It was like this. But he was never authorized to sign. And I think 95% of the things were signed by Autopen. You can tell because the Autopen is a nice, clean signature, and his signature is a mess. The only thing he signed was, which is nice, was Hunter's pardon. That's the only thing that we can find that he signed. Most of it he didn't sign. So somebody's sending papers to sign, and he wasn't the president. First of all, the election was rigged. You ought to have voter ID. You ought to insist on it. You ought to insist on it. Can you imagine? In California, they not only don't have voter ID, but if an official at the voting booths, which they don't have, by the way, because it's all mail, if an official, a voting official, even asks somebody for voter ID, sir, would like to see your identification. Do you come from our country? They put him in jail for tampering with the election. Okay? We got to straighten this out before it gets too crazy. California is more corrupt than any place. California is more corrupt than Minnesota. And I won Minnesota. Well, Tom's going, I think so. Well, it's close. It can't be proportionately, probably nothing's more corrupt, right? We got to win something. Yeah, right. He says you got to win. I'll tell you what, I did great there 3 times. I was surprised 3 times. Those elections are corrupt. They got you 1 time, too. But I heard a long time ago, but they got you. But they got to straighten those out. But we have to have voter ID. And when you confront a Democrat about voter ID, like in a debate or something, I said it a couple of times with Biden, and they're very embarrassed when they say, we want voter ID, voter identification. The only reason somebody doesn't want that is because they want to cheat. Our elections are crooked as hell. And you can not only win elections over that, and not only win future elections, but you'll win every debate because the public is really angry about it. And you ought to pass the SAFE Act, or whatever you're going to call it. Are we going to SAVE Act or the Save America Act? I think we're going to change the name a little bit. You're going to put that up for a vote? I think everybody in this room certainly should do it. And it's a bad vote for them because they're voting against things like voter ID and other things that are almost equal to voter ID. But when somebody says, no, we don't want voter ID, that means they're crooked. And the public understands it. You win elections with that. But I think it would be really important, Save America Act, if you would put that up for a vote. It's got my total endorsement. And all it is common sense things about the election. And they'll fight it like crazy because they cheat. That's the only way they can win. When you have policy so bad, when you have policy with men and women's sports, and they fight like hell for it. They still are. I saw the other day a person that you know very well, a congressman, was fighting like hell. And, I was out the other day with somebody, and I was with an ex-football player. The guy was massive. His leg was like this. And a young woman who plays flag football, and she's very good, supposedly, as an athlete. She's smaller than this guy's leg, okay? And if they were playing football together, he wouldn't even have to run. He could just keep walking. They couldn't take him down. He can't even believe it. But there are so many. They had a race, a long-distance race. They had champion men, women, one of those marathon deals. The man finished 5 hours and 14 minutes and 36 seconds sooner. He beat the champion woman by 5 hours. It's so demeaning to women. It's so ridiculous, right? It's so ridiculous. The weightlifting, take a look at the weightlifting records. one record stood for 18 years, and it was broken by 112 pounds. They couldn't get 1/8 of an ounce, you know. They'd put 1/8 of an ounce on. Then she's going to break the record for her mom, who's sitting in the front with her father. I'm going to break it. And she's out there. We're adding 1/8 of an ounce to each side. This record has stood, ladies and gentlemen, for 18 years. But she's going to do it. She's looking to get into the Olympics, right? And she gets up, and they put a little tiny thing like this, little thing. And my wife, by the way, my wife hates when I do this. She said, you know, she's a very classy person, right? She said, it's so unpresidential. I said, but I did become president. You know, she hates when I dance. I said, everybody wants me to dance. Darling, it's not presidential. She actually said, could you imagine FDR dancing? She said that to me. And I said, there's a long history that perhaps she doesn't know. Because he was an elegant fellow, even as a Democrat, right? He was the attack by Japan, you know, he was quite elegant. But he wouldn't be doing this. But nor would too many others. But she says, darling, please, the weightlifting is terrible. And I have to say this, the dancing they really like. She said, they don't like it, they're just being nice to you. I said, that's not right. The place goes crazy. They're screaming, dance, please. But the weightlifting, but no, the girl gets up. And you see, I want to be more, but I have somebody watching. I want to be more effusive. I want to really, yeah. But she gets it, and drops the thing, walks off the stage crying. Her mother's crying, her father's crying. Guy gets up. He said, have you lifted before? A little bit. And he walks up, bing. He could have gone ding, 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 ding. I think it was 112 pounds, right? It's crazy. Or the beautiful boxer. They have boxing now. And that they have a young gentleman who transitioned. He was a very good boxer, but he wanted to be a woman, which is, you know, to each his own. Because I want to be very liberal when it comes to these subjects. I'm trying to get that vote. It's not an easy vote to get. It's very tough for me to get it. But he transitioned, and he transitioned. And the girl was a champion boxer from Italy, remember? She got up, first round. He hit her, boom, with a left. A left, for those, everybody here knows about. But a left, Lisa knows better than anybody. But a left is defense. He goes, boom. She's like, oh my. She walked to the corner, remember? She didn't go down, but she did everything else. But she said, I've never been hit like that before. I don't want to go out again. You can do it. You can do it. Bang. She walked off. She said, he happened to win the gold medal, that young woman. He won the gold medal. There were two transition people. They both won gold medals. The whole thing is ridiculous. You have policy on your side. They don't have policy on your side. Right? You have policy. And I saw this guy fighting like hell. The swimming records is ridiculous when you look at the swimming, any records. It's crazy. And it's so demeaning to women. Women are the, you know, and for a long time, they refused to talk about it. They were embarrassed to talk about it. Now they do talk about it. They talk about it openly. But they have the worst policy on everything, open borders. We want open borders. You know, they still want an open border. We did the greatest job ever on borders. And, you know, I think they forgot it. My guy said to me today, I have a great guy, Ross. He's the greatest speechwriter. He said, sir, let's not mention the border. Nobody cares about the border anymore. Can you believe it? This was the biggest, this was the biggest thing there was. It says to me, nobody cares about the border because it has a shelf life. I fixed the border. I fixed it in my first term, but now I really had to fix it. It was much worse, you know, when I came into office. Millions and millions of people were pouring into our country. And I fixed it, and my guy, who's incredible, says, people don't want to hear it, sir. You've done that. The problem is people forget that I did it. They totally forget. They were talking about the other day, we don't like Donald Trump on this, we don't like Donald Trump on that. And somebody just out of the blue said, well, he did an unbelievable job. Who cares about that? They're saying, like, that's been done. What do we do about that, Mike? Everything you do. It's almost like what have you done lately is the way you have to run your life. In other words, I could have the most unbelievable 4 years, and I guess I'm not allowed to run. I'm not sure. Is there a little something out there that I'm not allowed to run? But let's assume I was allowed to run. I could have, there's going to be a constitutional movement. No, I could have the most unbelievable 4 years. Everything was great, but in the last week, I made a little slip up in something, and you lose the election. It's like, so we can't let them forget that we did such a great job on the border. By the way, Venezuela, everyone, they're marching in the streets. They love it, except in New York. I mean, where they find these people? These people, and they're not like, these people are a mess. I know it's not nice to say that. These people are a mess. Where do they find these people? They're the worst looking people I've ever seen. They got hats that are all frayed and all, they look like, they're all paid. They don't even know what they're talking. When the reporters don't interview them because they know that it's, the press is so anti. It's hard to believe the press could be so anti because it's all common sense. It's not, we're conservative, whatever. Doesn't matter. We're all common sense people. It's not even conservative. It's common sense. But the press has no credibility whatsoever. Think of it. I got 97% bad stories on one network, 93% on the other, and I won in a landslide. You know what that means? The press has no credibility. That's all it means. And we got to keep it that way. So I don't talk too much about the swimming, the weightlifting, the boxing. I don't talk about it. You know why? I want to start bringing it up about a week before the election because I don't want them to correct themselves. I don't want them to say, we've decided that we don't want to have men playing in women's sports. That'd be a devastating blow for us. Because that's, they say it's an 80-20. No. It's about a 98-2 issue. We've decided that we will not have open borders where the entire world, from the Congo, prisons from the Congo, these are extraordinarily tough people. These are people that make our motorcycle gangs look like fine young men. Okay? Our motorcycle gangs are wonderful people by comparison. No, they come in from prisons in the Congo. They come in from prisons from all over the world, but in particular Venezuela, Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua comes in, and Tren de Aragua, they say it's the worst gang in the world. It makes our gangs look like little sweethearts. It makes our gangs, you want to take them out to dinner, they're so nice. They cut off the fingers of people. One guy makes a phone call in Colorado. The governor stinks in Colorado. He's no control. So Tren de Aragua, they don't want to do anything about it. So ICE has to go in and take them out because the governor doesn't want to do anything. But they make a phone call. They've taken over my building. The landlord's calling. They took over his building. So the governor doesn't want to do anything. But he calls the police, the guy. They come in. Did you call the police? This is Tren de Aragua. We're talking to the man that owns the building. Did you call the police? Yeah. Boom, they cut off his fingers. If you call him again, the next time your hand comes off. Can you believe it? The guy's walking around, his fingers were cut off. And these are the animals that we're throwing the hell out of here. Washington, D.C. is now